this weekend podcast that we're not doing this week.
Jesus doesn't think you're a freak, or if he does, he thinks you're a freak in a good way.
Trust me, you two, I know what normal talk is.
Well, in this segment, I have the opportunity to talk to DeVon Franklin, and he is the producer for the new movie, Flamin Hot. DeVon, it's great to talk to you again. We have talked before, but I always enjoy our conversation. So thanks for joining us on the Plugged In Show today.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Always good to be here.
So sometimes with movies, when you hear the title, you think, oh, I know exactly what that is about. Like if it's called Secretariat, I know it's about a horse. But if I hear Flaming Hot, I might think, kind of sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not sure what it's about. So for the people in our audience who aren't familiar with this movie that was out on June 9th, and it is streaming on Hulu and Disney Plus, tell us about Flaming Hot. And I want to hear the backstory about how you got involved with this movie, because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. This is the true story. Flamin' Hot is a true story of Richard Montañez, who is the driving force behind what we all know as Flamin' Hot Cheetos. It's the flavor but this is the story you don't know.
I love that.
Yeah. And he, was a driver. He started as a janitor at Frito-Lay and had this idea to put, chili powder on a Cheeto and market it to his community in Southern California, because he, told the powers that be that the company was not reaching out to his people, and that if the company did, that the company would be more successful because of it. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to meet Richard a number of years ago. He came to my office, he told me his story, and at the end of the meeting, I said, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I commit. I'm going to make this movie. I'm going to make your story, because I was so just inspired by it, and I was so blown away by it. And that's what, thankfully, over a number of years, 7 years almost, I was able to do.
Well, that leads me to another question that is related to this and is a little bit more general, but I think people know what a director does, and they know obviously what the actors do, but as a producer, what is your role? I mean, you've sort of described it there a little bit, but talk more about how you play such a pivotal role in bringing a particular story to life.
Sure. I mean, with this particular movie, without me, there's no movie.
Okay.
Because, as the producer, I'm finding the story, I'm finding the writer, I'm selling it to a studio, I'm hiring the director, I'm overseeing the production with the director, working on marketing, talking with the studio about distribution plans, working with the talent. So the producer's job is everything from start to finish to ensure that project is made successfully. That is the producer's job. And in many instances, producers like myself are generating our own material and developing that material and selling that material to studios and getting made. So producers, also do that as well.
Okay, so you're the driving creative force behind the whole thing, it sounds like.
The answer is yes. And then once, I bring on a director, the director really is the creative force, and it's my job to support the director.
Okay, great. Well, and let's talk about the director, because it's a name that people may recognize. So you've got Eva Longoria directing this one, and is this her debut in that kind of a job? Talk to me about how she got on board, why she wanted to try her hand at directing, and maybe even just a little bit of behind the scenes on how that went.
Yes, I believe that when you make a movie that you commit to the process and the director will show up. And so literally, as I committed to the process of this film, I went out to, I think, maybe 20 directors. I met with 12. And Eva was one of the directors. I got a call from her agent and said, hey, Eva Longoria has read the script and she wants to meet on it. And I said, well, I didn't know Eva was a director. And her agent was like, oh, she's directed a lot of television episodes. And I said, okay. So then Eva came in to meet with me, and just her vision, her spirit, her tenacity, her ability to talk about the film in multiple levels. All of those things really spoke to me. And at the end of that meeting, I said, you're our director. I knew it. And then, I went to the studio, Searchlight, Fox Searchlight at the time. And they agreed. Eva did an amazing presentation for them, and they agreed that she was our director. And we hired her and, have not stopped working together since.
So, streaming is a huge thing these days. And this is a movie that's going to be released on streaming platforms. Are there any differences in creating a movie when you know that that's going to be the platform versus a theatrical release? Does that change any part of the process for you?
No, no. A good story is a good story. A good movie is a good movie. And the requirement to make it good does not change based upon the distribution method.
Okay.
So for me, we put in the same amount of work we would have put in if it was going theatrically. The same amount of heart, the same amount of blood, sweat, and tears. Definitely didn't allow the distribution of it to disrupt the quality of it.
Yeah. Well, one of the other names that people may recognize who's involved with this as one of the, main roles in the film is Tony Shalhoub. So
Yes.
people may know him. I know there are a lot of Monk fans out there, and I know that obviously he's done a lot since Monk, but I think for a lot of people, when you say Tony Shalhoub, that's the first thing that pops
Right.
into their minds. Talk to me about how he got involved.
We were looking for who was going to play the legendary executive Roger Enrico. For those of you that don't know, Roger Enrico used to be the head of PepsiCo.
Hmm.
He's passed away years ago. But his claim to fame was he did the deal with Michael Jackson for the Pepsi commercial that was famous, and Michael's hair caught on fire, and he got this was a
Man.
big thing.
Yeah.
And so that Roger Enrico was the executive that made all that happen. He was the one that hired Michael Jackson and did a big deal. And so that kind of catapulted him to success. And he was just this incredible corporate executive who we had to portray in the movie because of his role with Richard.
Hmm.
And so we're thinking about who would play him, who could be better. And then an agent called and said, "Hey, I think I could get my client Tony Shalhoub to do this." And we all were like, "That's a brilliant idea, brilliant." And Tony read the script, and he had a conversation with myself, a conversation with Eva, and he agreed to do it. And he's so good in the movie. He's so good. And if you look at pictures of the real Roger Enrico, Tony looks just like him.
I love that. Well, DeVon, you have produced a lot of different Christian movies in Hollywood, within the Hollywood system. And I would just love to hear what it's like to sort of maybe get that, reputation as the guy that's doing faith-based and family-based movies. Does that influence things for you as you bring a project like this to the table?
I wouldn't say it influences me. I'm looking for great stories that I connect to, and every story is
Okay.
going to be different. And some stories will be more faith friendly than others.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily, when I'm deciding to do a movie, I'm not necessarily always thinking about the audience initially.
Okay.
Most of the time, I'm looking for, do I connect to it?
Okay.
Am I moved by this story? Do I see this story? And if I do, and I am moved by it, then I put the resources together that I need to do my best to get that movie sold to a studio and ultimately produced.
Okay. Talk to me about what you feel like audiences will take away in terms of the themes and the ideas. Obviously, this is an incredibly inspirational story, but what do you hope people leave, after watching this movie? What do you hope they take away from it?
Well, I think I hope they take away hope.
Okay.
Is an underdog. He succeeded against the odds. But here's the thing: Richard is a real person,
Hmm.
and Richard really did all of the heroic things we portray in the movie. Why that's important is I know that superhero movies, are so popular, and Hollywood makes a ton of them, and audiences love to see them. However, you cannot put on a suit and run through your city fast and save crime and fight crime. You can't do it. But you
Right.
can, like Richard, have a dream, commit to your community, become your brother or sister's keeper, be persevering, be tenacious, be patient, and succeed. You can do all those things and succeed. So I want people, when they watch the film, to take away hope, possibility,
Hmm.
and then be inspired to do it.
Hmm.
Inspired to endure, inspired to persevere, inspired to dream and to think and take risks. Richard could have lost his job at many different times,
Hmm.
but he took the risk. He took the risk, even though he could lose his job. He still took the risk, and we're here talking about him because of those risks that he took. So those are some of the things I want audiences to take away. And you can watch this family with your youngest all the way to your oldest, and there will be a phenomenal, I think, inspiration that will be
Okay.
taken from each viewing of this film.
All right. Well, I think that is everything that I had on my mind today, DeVon. So I really appreciate you taking that time to
No problem.
tell us about Flaming Hot. And again, it is on Hulu and Disney Plus, and it started streaming on June 9th. Thanks a lot.
You got it. Thank you.